Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Jikri. First, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to you for teaching on the economic and business landscape, which has greatly broadened my perspective, Pak. This presentation, I explore how Indonesia is driving the future by aligning the fiscal incentive with the climate commitment and the industrial goals. We are not just adopting EV, but we are transforming the ecosystem. I would like to explore more on these presentations. So yeah, as we observe the transformation globally, mobility, it's clear that electric vehicle or EV are no longer or nice, but a central pillar on the future of the transportations. This shift is deeply tied to climate goals, energy policy, and economic competitiveness. Indonesia is the landscape is not a bystander but a potential regional leader. So, global momentum, the opportunity landscape. We begin the global trend. The EV market is expanding at unprecedented pace, growing 55% year over year from the 2021 and the 2022, reaching the 10 million units. That's 40% of new car sales worldwide, with projection for 2023 targeting 15 million units. So these figures are not just about consumer preference, but they reflect major shift in the regulations, supply chain, and industrial strategy across the globe. So importantly, the momentum is driven by leading markets like China, Europe, and the US, but emerging economies like Indonesia stand to benefit as a production, resource, and the policy line. So for the net zero commitment, Indonesia has a set ambitious yet necessary target achieving net zero emission by 2060 as a midterm objective, right? So the government is targeting the 29th reduction in the greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. Equilibrium is seen a strategic lever to meet these goals. Not only is reducing emission, but also in the creating new industrial pathways. So the alignment between the climate policy and the industrial policy is the key here. EV are not just about mobility, but also about reshaping Indonesia energy use, emission profile, and the global relevance. From the resource advantage, now we give Indonesia a strong competitive edge in the EV ecosystem, in the resource base, right? So the country holds one of the world's largest reserves of nickel and cobalt. As we know, Indonesia have more cobalt than the nickels. So both critical mineral for the lithium-ion battery manufacturing, but the opportunity lies not only in the exporting raw materials. If leveraged properly, the resources could support the development of domestic battery industry and EV production. So positioning Indonesia as a key player in the South Asian EV supply chain. So this is the part we're talking about the Indonesia strategic position in the global EV markets first. Next, yeah, Indonesia electric vehicle policy framework is not just about promoting the greener transportation. It's a multi-dimensional strategy designed to balance climate goals, industrial development, and market growth. Industrial development, the framework is anchored is four strategic objectives. It's aimed to attain, to strengthening the both the supply and the demand side of the EV ecosystem. Yeah, first, low carbon emissions. So this pillar focus on environmental impact by shifting from fossil fuel powered transportation to electric mobility. So Indonesia aims to significantly reduce the greenhouse gas emission. This aligns with the country borders climate target, right? So including its commitment to the Paris Agreement and the net zero goals. So importantly, this is not just about the sustainability narrative, it's also the signals to global investor and the trade partner that Indonesia is seriously about the low carbon transition. So this is the first framework. And the second one is on demand side, right? The framework emphasizes accelerating the uptake of electrical vehicle nationwide. What this mean? This means implementing the consumer-focused incentives such as tax breaks, subsidies, and the charging infrastructure to make the EV more accessible and attractive. So boost EV adoption. The goal is to achieve the scale so that EV become a mainstream, not nice, in both and urban rural areas. And the third, regarding the build indigenous EV industry. This component is about the building national capacity. Indonesia is not aiming to be just a consumer of EV technology, but also a producer that include encouraging legal manufacturing of EV batteries and the supporting components. By fostering domestic capability, Indonesia not only reduce the reliance on import, or I mean that for the imports, but also the create the jobs, right? Support the technology transfer and enhance the industrial competitiveness, especially in the Southeast Asia. And last, the policy framework acknowledge the need of life cycle sustainability. So for the promote sustainability practice, this include the responsible the practice in the productions, battery recycling, and the EV disposal. The vision is to create a circular EV ecosystem from the raw materials and of life processing, ensuring the environmental benefits are preserved throughout. Okay. Okay, from the fiscal incentive side, this is a critical pillar in Indonesia EV strategy. Is a fiscal policy. So, to accelerate the transition to electric mobility, the government has introduced a range of tax-based incentives that target both the consumers and the supply side of the ecosystem. These incentives are designed to reduce entry barriers, stimulate the local manufacturing, and attract the long-term investment. So from the direct customer incentive, this slogan is focused on the reducing the cost of ownership for the buyers, making EV more affordable, appealing to the mass market. So this strategy is the fight reductions. Domestic battery electric vehicles with at least 40% local content, known as how to say TKDN, right? Benefit for the reducing threat of just 1%, applicable through to 2025. Even electric bus with the 20 until the 40% locals content still receiving a reduced 60%. I mean the 6% VAT. So this final implication is substantial, up to around the $2,700 in estimated saving per vehicles, helping to close the price gap with the internal combustion engines vehicles. And then from the luxury sales tax, as we know, it's the PPN, pajak pertambahan nilai barang mewah, exemptions, beyond the fiat, the government also provide the exemption on Indonesian luxury goods. We call it PPNBMs. If I'm now around in 2024, this include a 50% PPNBM borne by the government for import the EV and the third percent, sorry, 3% exemption for hybrid vehicle under the low carbon emission vehicles program. So this is really support not just electrification but a broader low emission vehicle transition. So this is I think the fiscal incentive become the important from the direct consumer incentive, right? From the perspective direct consumer incentive. And then from the manufacturing and the investment side, this is our supply side incentive. What does it mean? Aiming to localize production and attract investors into the EV manufacturing ecosystem. Local content requirement, the TKDN, this is will stimulate domestic production progressive. TKDN target are in place, right? For example, for well, EV must meet 35% local content sharing in the 2019. 2019, with a targeting 80% by 2030. So similar target applies to the two-wheelers also. So this is ensure that incentives are tied to industrial development, not just import. So we don't talking about just import, right? So next about the import duty exceptions. So what is this? This is to balance the short-term market growth and long-term localizations. Indonesia allowed the 0% import duty for fully built, as we know is GBU, completely built up, and the semi-knockdown, as we know, the completely knockdowns or CKDs, the EV until the December 25, But by the 2026, local factory establishment will be required to continue receiving these benefits. And then for the customer tax benefits, this is from the point of view the investor in the EV value chain can also access significant tax relief. This includes the up to 100% corporate income tax exemption for 5 to 20 years, depending on investment scale, as well as 100% gross income deduction for the R&D, right? And then the innovation and training expense. What this means, the single strong policy support for high-tech value-adding AV ecosystem development in Indonesia. Okay. Okay, from the perspective of the economic, this is the growth and investment. As Indonesia move forward with its electric vehicle agenda, it's essential to assess the economic impact, not just from the climate perspective, right? But in terms of real growth, fiscal pressure, and industrial development. So this is more important. So we're not talking about only uh, how to say it's climate perspective, not only about the carbon emission, but how it can be growth. We're talking about the growth and investment. So the data here have two four key economic dimensions: adaptation growth, fiscal impact, foreign investment, and domestic capacity building. From the EV adoption surge, we have seen an impressive acceleration EV sales from the 700 units in 2019. Sales reached over the 70,000 by 2030. In the first half 24, alone over 2,000 EV were sold, making the 260% increase compared to previous years. Battery electric vehicles now account for around the 8% of the new cars as March 25, up from just 0.1% in the 2021. So this is growth confirmed that fiscal incentive and supportive policy are working to stimulate real consumers. So if we're talking about the EV adoption shows the fiscal incentive very impact for the real consumer demand. And the implication, of course, such incentive come at cost. In 25, the government allocated around the IDR 6 point 16 trillion, roughly USD 13 for AV-related tax exemption, including VAT and luxury sales tax. So this is a boost market development in the result in the short-term revenue loss, especially for import of vehicle like BYD, 803, whereas the state collect only around the $2.60 in the tax for every $10 sold. So this is a very important question about balancing fiscal sustainability with the policy ambitions. And the third one is the foreign direct investment. The upside, the policy momentum is the strong surge in FDI, right? Over the past 3 years, Indonesia attracted over the 15 billions in investment, primarily driven by its abundant nickel reserve. These investments span mining, battery production, and the vehicle assembly. So global manufacturers as Hyundai, as we know, Hyundai and the Wuling have already established major local facility in Indonesia, signaling the investor confidence in Indonesia EV future. So this is the signal from the investor will become coming to Indonesians because they already established the component that's important in the EV ecosystem, right? The batteries. Last one, domestic manufacturing development. This is the for the long-term strategic gains, leasing and local manufacturing incentive tied to local content TKDN have a catalyst an establishment of EV factory by global. So again, the incentive tax will be for a catalyst to EV development in Indonesia, because this is not only about only support job creation and technology transfer, but also with the industrial resilience for this region, right? Next, transforming the business landscape. So, fiscal incentives are not just accelerating the EV adoption, they are fundamentally transforming the structure and dynamics of Indonesian automotive industry. This transformation is visible across three dimensions. First, the market competition, supply chain localization, And the last one is the charging infrastructure. So this is the part of the important in terms of transforming the business landscape. First, market competition, right? So let's start with the competition. The Fed election policy introduced in the April 2023 triggered a surge of new market entrants, especially Chinese brands like, as we know, the previous entry market, the for big cars is like a Cherry, Neta, MG, and the Ceres. So these players have a quickly gained the traction by offering the competitive pricing and vehicle tailored to local preference. As a result, Chinese brand now, as we know, dominate, accounting for the 90-30% the EV sales in the first half of 2024. 2024. Also, this is the signal major shift in the competitive landscape, challenging the traditional automakers and pushing the entire market toward either the efficiency and the innovations. From the supply chain localization on the supply side, Indonesia is leveraging the strategic mineral reserve, particularly nickels, cobalt, to localize the EV value chain. So, if a prime example is the Karawang facility, a collaboration between the Hyundai and the LG Energy Solutions. This around the 10 gigawatt power plant is the first EV battery cell production facility in South Asia, so marking a major milestone in industry upgrading the regional supply chain leaderships. The last is charging infrastructure. The infrastructure is the third piece of the transformation puzzle. By March 2025, State Initiative PLN, Perusahaan Listrik Negara, had a deploy nearly around the 2,000 two-wheeler charging station and 700 followers SPQ and more than 2,200 battery storage stations. So looking ahead, Indonesia target more than 63,000 public charging stations by 2030. Yeah, 13, 30 years. While this growth is encouraging, the EV to charger ratio currently stand at the 21 21 by 2 by 1, surpassing the global best practice standard 17 by 1. So this is an indicate a strong pace of expansions, but also signal a need for continued investment in the supporting the infrastructure. So in terms of key challenge and the limitation, whilst Indonesia EV transformation has gained significantly tractions, it's equally important to acknowledge the systemic challenge that could hinder its long-term success. So in this slide outline, both the visible and underlying barriers that need to be addressed to ensure sustainable adoption in industrial growth. First is high upfront costs. The most visible challenge remains the high purchase cost of EV, primarily driven by battery price, which can account for up to 60% of the vehicle's total cost. While fiscal incentives have reduced this burden, they only partially close the affordability gap until battery costs fall further, financing become more accessible. EV might remain out of reach for many consumers. Infrastructure deficiencies. So a less visible but highly influential barrier is the lack of charging infrastructure because most networks are concentrated in the urban area, so leaving rural regions underserved. This contributes to what's known as range anxiety. Yes, range anxiety, which survey showing that 60% of potential buyers worry about running out of charger before reaching a station. So I think I also facing this condition when I would like to consider buying the EV, right? So this limit consumer confidence and discourage broader adoptions. And the third, policy inconsistencies. From a regulatory standpoint, there are a conflicting signal. For example, duty-free import for completely built or we call it the CBU. EVs coexist with local content based on subsidies. This could create market distortions, undermining domestic manufacturing while encouraging dependence on imports. So the policymaker must strike a balance between the attracting investment and the protecting the local industry. So this is also very critical. And then it will become very challenging. And then the last one is environmental externality. So finally, we must consider the broader sustainability equations while EV reduce tailpipe emission. Their full life cycles impact is influenced by upstream factors. Indonesia grid is still heavy reliant on the coal and the nickel mining, too crucial for the batteries, come with the environmental costs. So moreover, there is like a robust national framework for battery striking and off-life waste management, which process the long-term environmental risk. Okay, to ensure that from the strategic requirements for enhance to ensure that in this Indonesia electric vehicles transition is both effective and sustainable, refined and integrated policy strategy is essential in here. So for the refined fiscal incentive, first, incentive structure need to evolve rather than the applying uniform benefits. The government should adopt a tiered incentive model, offering greater support for vehicle with the higher local content and tailoring policy to different vehicle classes from the two-wheelers to commercial fleet. So stability in the long-term policy is equally critical to build the investor confidence and sustain industry developments. For the accelerated infrastructure development, this is to address the charging gaps. Incentive must also target private charging provider, so not for the just manufacturer, right? So a clear national charging roadmap is needed in here, including the interoperability standard, equitable distribution, and integration with the renewable sources to ensure the infrastructure is future-proof and the climate line. So this is the part of the strategic automation that given. And the third one is strengthen the domestic industry. Yes, we know we're talking also about the, it's the all about the sovereignty, something like that. So the industrial policy should focus on the building on reselling local EV supply chain, as long with the Pak Prabowo said that yeah we would like to proceed from the Hulu to Hilir, right? Or the this include the diversifying the batteries technology, for example, investing in the lithium iron phosphate, or we call it the LFP, chemistry for the safety and the cost efficiency, and promoting the domestic production of critical EV component like motors and battery management system, the BMS we call it. So support for the indigenous R&D will also drive long-term innovation and the reduce dependency on the imported tech. So this is very aligned with our government because we would like to reduce the dependency to outside because we would like to empowering the local one, right? So sorry. So the fourth one is to address environmental and social concerns. Yeah, as we know, as the EV sector expand, it must not create a new sustainability problem. So establishing robust battery recycling, we're talking about how we recycling the battery, accelerating grid decarbonization, and launching the reskilling program for the automotive workforce are the key to aligning social and environmental goal with the industrial growth. The five is foster collaboration. So finally, no transition happen in isolations. Indonesia should strengthen the regional cooperations, especially through the ASEAN, for harmonize the technical standards, railway infrastructure protocols, and the international collaborations on the technology transfer and investment. Okay, so that's all from the strategy. And yes, finally, as we conclude, it's a clear that Indonesia has laid a solid foundation for its EV transition. Strategic fiscal incentive has successfully catalyzed market entry. So this is it's very impact the incentive and the foreign direct investment also, particularly in the battery manufacturing. So establishing a vital link between the sustainability objective and industrial growth. As we know, the progress so far, we have seen the positive outcome from the emergence of new brand and rising the adoption rate in Indonesia to to localize production initiative and charging infrastructure deployment also already grow. The achievement reflect the deliberate policy choice and the public-private government alignment. So the challenge is high, right? However, the unlocking the full potential of a localized sustainable EV ecosystem still requires overcoming persistent roadblocks such as high upfront vehicle costs, underdevelopment charging network, and the policy fragmentation. So the way forward is to move beyond the momentum toward the transformation. Indonesia must adopt a more holistic, the adaptive policy framework. This includes the refining fiscal incentive to reward the higher local content and market diversity. Uh, so accelerating the infrastructure rollout, especially in underserved area, and linking into the renewable energy resources. So this is important, I think. And deepening domestic industrial capability through R&D and the component localization. As we know, Indonesia, so many the local, but only the player only for the two wheelers, right? As we know, the Indonesian we have a Polytrons, Maka, so many local players growth right now, and yeah, it's because the incentive. I think the many players confident that they can selling their product uh, and take a momentum for the fiscal incentive for the EV. So addressing the environmental safeguard, particularly around the battery stacking and the mining impact, investing in workforce scaling to support the evolving the EV value chain is good. Yeah, how to say that? So in summary, Indonesia EV journey is off to a promising start. The next phase requires the policy coherence, industry resilience, and sustained collaboration, ensuring that nation not only transition to electric mobility, but does so in a way to is inclusive, competitive, and sustainable. I think that's all from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.